We also welcome back to the school Phil DeYoung and his wife Rosemary, and we also welcome friends and family members of OCGA people who have served our country. On the morning of April 25, 1915, 98 years ago, Australian, New Zealand and other Commonwealth troops landed at Gallipoli. And it was then, and in the violent campaign which followed, that the Anzac tradition was forged. Elements of that tradition have inspired and offered an enduring example to later generations of Australians. It's right and proper that many of you will be dreaming of gap years and of dreaming of backpacking around the world. And I'm sure, like many other young Australians, you'll eventually backpack to Gallipoli in Turkey. I had the privilege of doing that 19 years ago. And I'd like you to imagine the scene that the Anzacs were facing 98 years ago. It's pitch black, they're in a boat in waters unknown, and they're about to land in a foreign country. Upon landing on a foreign beach, they look up and see incredibly steep cliffs. Embedded into those cliffs are the enemy, who had lots of time to prepare and indeed machine gun fire that assisted them. You soon realise the hopelessness of the situation and the sacrifice that many of those people made. Dotted around the Gallipoli Peninsula, I hope you too will also visit the many war cemeteries that are there. Rows and rows of people that have died, both in Turkey and also the Anzac forces. And when you look at those inscriptions on those graves, you'll see the age of the people that died. 14 or 15 years old in some cases, because they lied about their age to serve, but many others, 16, 17 and 18, the same age of many of you in this hall. It's for this reason that we pay homage not only to those original Anzacs, but all those who have died or disabled in the service of our country. In our gathering today, there will be moments of silence where we think about those Australians who have died in war. We share in the sorrow of those who mourn them, and for all of those who have been victims of armed conflict. This year, Carey celebrates its 90th anniversary. We were founded in 1923, which of course meant that none of our Carey old grammarians would have served during the First World War. However, as you will notice, our foyer is open today as a special remembrance for those that served who came to Carey. And inside that foyer, there's an honour board. And on that honour board, there are 505 names. Those 505 names are Carey old grammarians who served in the Second World War. Now, probably 505 doesn't sound like a large number, but one needs to remember that at that particular time in our school history, there were only 750 Carey old grammarians. So in other words, 2/3 of our Carey old grammarians served in the Second World War. We also remember the many others who have served in other armed conflicts since the Second World War: Vietnam, East Timor, Iraq, and more recently in Afghanistan. Also in the foyer of our Memorial Great Hall is an honour board with 40 names on it. Those 40 names represent those Carey old grammarians who served in the Second World War and unfortunately died in service of their country. In a moment, our school captains, Darcy and Anthea, are going to come forward to pay tribute to one of those 40 Carey old grammarians. This year, as is our tradition, we honour one of this year we pay tribute to Kenneth Barry Kemmis. So would Anthony and Darcy, can you please step forward to pay your tribute?
Flight Sergeant Kenneth Barry Kemmis was the eldest and only son of Mr. Alan Kemmis and Mrs. Thelma Kemmis of Black Rock. He had a sister, Thelma Kemmis of Black Rock. He had a sister, Pam, who was 4 years younger than he, and she's with us here today. Sadly, Barry and Pam's mother died when Barry was 6 and Pam was 2. Mr. Alan Kemmis later married Mrs. Elizabeth Kemmis, and they had 4 daughters, June, Mary, Pat, and Joan. Following their mother's death, the family solicitor and the executor of their mother's estate, Mr. Walter Kemp, recommended Carey Baptist Grammar as a good school for Barry, as his son had also attended the school. When he was 14, Barry enrolled at Carey and was a boarder from May 1937 to December 1940. Pam can remember his visits home during the holidays and the time that he spent with his school friend, Bruce Marshall. Barry excelled at sport, and he was a member of the First 18, the athletics, the swimming team, and was also a cadet officer. Barry was one of 3 members of the first football team in 1940 to lose his life during World War II, along with Ian Treloar and Noel Gadsden. All 3 of whom are immortalised in the 1940 team photo. Ian Treloar was the team captain and is seated next to Barry Kemmis, and Noel Gadsden is in the back row. In 1940, when Barry left Carey, basic foodstuffs were being rationed in the UK, and Germany had invaded Belgium, France, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. On the 4th of June in 1940, Winston Churchill had just become the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and he addressed Parliament with his famous speech that began, "We shall fight them on the beaches, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, and we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender." Soon after, when the British refused to negotiate a peace deal, Hitler began a cross-channel invasion. In August that year, the Luftwaffe began what became known as the Battle of Britain. The attacks increased, and the Luftwaffe switched from bombing southern England to bombing London, and from autumn 1940 until May in 1941, British cities were subjected to what became known as the Blitz. In these night raids, more than 40,000 civilians were killed.
Barry Kemmis enlisted with the Royal Australian Air Force in October 1941. After training at Somers, Temora and Delinquent, he left for England in December 1942, and following further training was attached to the Royal Australian Air Force 186 Spitfire Squadron. The Spitfires were designed as a single-seat, short-range, high-performance fighter aircraft. During the Battle of Britain, the Spitfire was perceived as the RAF fighter. Much loved by its pilots, the Spitfire served in several roles, including interceptor, photo reconnaissance, and fighter bomber. Yet, the Spitfire, for all its wonderful characteristics, had some dangerous features, one of which was the length of its engine, which obscured much of the pilot's view, not only when taxiing on the ground, but also in the air. The 186th Squadron was part of the Army Cooperation Command, generally flying intruder flights against German airfields to distract or prevent German fighters from attacking the bomber stream. The bomber stream was a tactic developed by the RAF Bomber Command to overwhelm the German aerial defences of the Kamuba Line during the World War II. The Kamuba Line was the name given to the German night air defence system. The squadron continued their attacks to enemy targets for the rest of the war. On the 21st of January 1944, the Luftwaffe bombed London from over 440 aircraft. However, due to the heavy loss of experienced German crews and the greatly improved British night fighters and other defences, the raid by the Germans was an utter failure, with only a fraction of the bombs dropped actually landing on London. 4 aircraft from 186 Squadron were lost in 1944, including Flight Sergeant Kenneth Barry Kemmis, who was reported as having lost his life by drowning off the English coast. He was posted as missing on night flying exercises on March 14, 1944, and was buried by the villagers at Saint-Pierre-en-Port in the north of France. He was 20 years old. Many family members have visited Barry's grave in France. An old grammarian, Bruce Marshall, wrote to Foundation scholar, Carey medalist, and former archivist Alfred Mallow to let him know that he named his first son Philip Barry after his old school friend.